Dormammu, we've come to bargain. Marvel's What If, Episode 4. Welcome to Applesauce and Baloney. I'm Thor.
I'm Eric. And, so we got really heavy stuff, man. Like Marty McFly would say to Doc. Heavy stuff.
Yeah. Marvel woke up and chose violence. The last episode, I mean, obviously super, super dark.
What if the Sorcerer Supreme had no heart? In this one, in the timeline we know, Sacred Timeline, he loses his hands. In this one, he loses his heart. And, I guess, obviously we assume in these episodes we give you plenty of time to have seen the episode. Definitely see the episode. If you've seen Doctor Strange, his love interest and his, colleague, friend, his only friend in the world.
Christine Palmer,
Yeah, Christine Palmer. She does not die. She's not with him because he's a big fat jerk and he's alone in his car. So he doesn't go with her. But in this alternate reality, she is with him. So
yeah. And we get what could be the worst Groundhog Day / Back to the Future / any movie where you relive a trauma
going all the way back
over
to
and
the
over
time
and
machine.
over again.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to the time machine. Wow, man.
Fixed point in time.
Yeah. And we've we kind of touch on that a little bit in Loki, where they talk about the what do they call them in Loki? They're basically the variant spots where a variant happens.
Right.
This one calls them fixed points in time.
It's something nexus points, right? Is it
nexus points? Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. It's so nexus points, fixed point in time. Really, really heavy stuff.
Real heavy.
I don't even know, honestly. I don't even know where to start with this episode.
Well, okay, so basically, walking through it. So he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. So he defeats Dormammu, like your very dramatic intro, alludes to. So he defeats Dormammu. So we're basically picking up Doctor Strange,
right?
Post the events of Doctor Strange, but pre his involvement in the Avengers. And if you've been watching the MCU timeline on Disney Plus, which I have been the timeline order, Doctor Strange doesn't have his thing until right before Avengers Infinity War starts.
Right.
So this is Doctor Strange who he's not figured out the 1 in 14th million thing. This is in that little window, and there's a moment where this alternate Doctor Strange in this universe where he loses Christine Palmer, where this Doctor Strange attempts to use the Eye of Agamotto to go back and resurrect her. And this leads him down a dark, dark path.
Which, I mean, ultimately is exactly what Mordo is warning him about with using the Eye of Agamotto, where he's do not tamper with the natural order of time. Mm-hmm. And now we see why. I would have actually loved to have seen him show back up in this episode. I think that would have been a great callback.
I did. I'm glad you brought that up because I did think it was a noticeable absence that Mordo is going to be in the new Doctor Strange movie, but was not in this episode. Instead, we meet this. This dark road leads him to realizing he doesn't have enough power to change time, to break time, to bring her back, to get past this fixed point, and he discovers in the library or whatever that there was a Sorcerer Supreme in the past who did figure it out. Or
he finds out he finds out that there is information that the Ancient One does not have, and finds a way to find the lost library of Cagliostro, where we assume we're going to meet Cagliostro, but instead we meet a character named O'Bane, who I loved. I loved this character. I thought it was a really great foil. it basically picked up where the Ancient One would have been. It's the new teacher. It's the person that's trying to teach him right from wrong, how to use his powers.
And we'll circle back to the Ancient One, because Tilda Swinton does reprise her role as the Ancient One in this, and casts a spell that we don't find out about until later in the episode, in this alternate timeline.
Right. So, I one of the things I wanted to bring up, which I find is interesting, because in the credits, he's called Doctor Strange Supreme, which kind of makes me think of a taco. But
Taco Bell should jump on that.
Right.
Endorsement alert.
But when I was looking at stuff, it's interesting that nowhere in the MCU sacred timeline do we refer to Doctor Strange as the Sorcerer Supreme. So, according to the MCU Prime Sacred Timeline, Doctor Strange is not the Sorcerer Supreme yet.
Well, I mean, I don't know I assumed he was, because the Ancient One was the previous Sorcerer Supreme, and I thought that mantle was pretty solidly cast at the end of the Doctor Strange movie, right?
And that's kind of what I thought. It's a passing of the torch, but maybe it's not, because they definitely drew a solid line in the sand in this episode and said, this is Doctor Strange Supreme. So whatever that means for Doctor Strange going forward, it also could tell us why he's still an arrogant, bumbling idiot in Spider-Man. It does circle back to what we were talking about in the last episode with Spider-Man, he's pretty reckless. And so... Yeah. I guess it does fit with, that's why Mordo left at the end of the Doctor Strange movie. It was one of the things that he drove him away from being a sorcerer and thinking that there shouldn't be any sorcerers, because he thought it was even reckless to use Agamotto to stop Dormammu from destroying Earth. So, his recklessness paid off there. But I mean, this episode definitely does bring up, along with the his actions, his apparent actions in Spider-Man, seems pretty easy to convince him to just alter reality. Yeah, let's do some spells. So fix all of our problems. So obviously, in the episode, you talked about it. He decides that he needs more power. He goes on this journey to find a way to get more powerful.
Which is apparently sucking up the soul's evil Pokemon style,
of
demons,
evil little angry gnomes, little tiny angry gnomes, and then going through a whole litany of different dimensional beings,
which start and end, again, an interesting tie-in to other What If episodes. Start and end with the tentacled creature that we believe might be the creature from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and from the first episode of What If, Captain Carter.
Right.
What if the first Avenger was Captain Carter, who ends up fighting what appears to be, it feels like a tie-in with this creature.
Yeah.
It feels like we're going to see that again.
Yeah. There's definitely a tie-in with this certain interdimensional being. And there was a conversation with I believe the art director or the creature designer where somebody asked him, they're like, hey, so in Doctor Strange there's this tentacle being called Shumagorath that is an interdimensional being, and they've been asking since episode 1 with Captain Carter, is this Shumagorath? And interestingly enough, they've said, well, it's not Shumagorath, but not.
They're so funny the way they duck and weave.
It's not necessarily.
They love messing with us, basically.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait till the end of this season, possibly even longer, to find out if that's even something, if that comes to fruition in this. But so Doctor Strange absorbs all these different things and eventually becomes they call him. I mean, they're calling him Doctor Strange Supreme. I'm going to refer to him as Darker Strange because he is the darkest Doctor Strange that we have.
You're Doctor Strange. I thought he was very. I thought in the episode I do like Doctor Strange. That was a very good dad joke pun. But I thought he was very vampiric. I thought
Yeah.
if he should have been called anything, it should have been the vampiric Strange. You know,
Right. Nosferatu
maybe
Strange.
Right. Because he basically was a soul vampire. Basically became an energy vampire and sucked all this negative energy up, where he ends up casting this spell that basically rends reality. But before he can do that, and destroys all of reality, and we'll get to that, because then we bring in the Watcher, who becomes an actual active participant in this episode.
Right.
But before that, he has to fight Doctor Strange, because what we don't find out, and I loved this as a great, mid-episode twist, what we don't find out about until later is the Ancient One shows back up. We think, that she casts a spell when she tries to stop him from doing the Eye of Agamotto at the beginning of his dark journey.
Right.
And
we think fails. We think fails.
Or he destroys her. We don't know, but he ends up in the past where he wants to be and finds Cagliostro's library. And I'm sure we're butchering the name on that. But then he has to fight. So we find out mid-episode that the Ancient One shows up to Doctor Strange, who doesn't decide to do that, who's basically almost a parallel version of the Doctor Strange from the Sacred Timeline. And that Doctor Strange has to then, go travel to fight this Doctor Strange Supreme.
Yeah.
This vampiric, or Darker Strange, as you said, and which is an epic spell fight, which ultimately ends up with the death, Doctor Strange losing. It's an epic fight. His cloak fights Doctor Strange's evil cloak,
which I love.
Which was great. And then, I was like, oh, when Doctor Strange Supreme, when Doctor Strange Supreme kills, uses his spell to, kill his cloak. Very sad. But it basically ends up as a lot of these what ifs, I feel like, are going to. Maybe until the end, maybe even the end. They're doing some dark episodes here. But ends up in the darkest timeline, where evil Doctor Strange wins, rends time and space, brings, an
end of the universe.
Back.
Yeah.
End of the universe, the whole universe, brings his love back, just to have her fade away with the rest of the universe again. And at the very end, calls out to the Watcher, to Uatu.
Right, which we had talked about previously, and you had asked, is the Watcher going to become a character? And what better person to make the Watcher a character and interact with the story than Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange would be the only one, yeah.
He calls out directly and says, "Hey, you who's in the shadows, help me. Fix. I know you can fix this. I know you're strong." And the Watcher,
he says no.
The Watcher, being the Watcher, says no, and we watch for the first time.
Sad.
A timeline get destroyed.
Except with one lone survivor, because he casts that last spell that makes his own pocket dimension. That's one of the first spells that the Ancient One teaches him in Doctor Strange. About
the mirror dimension.
That mirror dimension, and so there's just this little mirror ball trapped with Doctor Strange Supreme.
With a very sad Doctor Strange. A very sad
Doctor Strange Supreme. Yeah.
Which again, brings him back around to, I guess, being a good guy, because he realizes the errors of his ways, and that sacrifices needed to be made.
And that's what I'm saying. Is Uatu going to, now that they're teasing him in, again, I'm just throwing this out there, is Uatu going to have to put together his own super team to stop something that's going to end all universes?
Yeah.
Because in all the epic what if episode or issues of the old comic series, that was the line. They would kick you every time. In most issues, it was true. The Watcher would not interfere, but sometimes, under dire circumstances, sometimes he would.
Right. So, and we've talked about it before, and it's hinted at in, again, that Hyundai commercial, that shows all the heroes together.
Did you get the right? Did you get the right car company this time?
I did get the right car company this time. I don't have to edit myself. But yeah, I mean, and I found it. I don't know if it was a leak or if somebody posted it. I did find a list of all the titles for the next upcoming episodes.
Oh, okay, all right. Give them to me.
So I don't have them in front of me. So I'll post them up on the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
But the last episode,
I'm going to pretend to read them.
Right. But the last episode is titled Ultron and something and the Guardians of the Universe.
Ultron versus the Guardians of the Universe?
Right. So they're not the Guardians of the Galaxy because we have Star-Lord and we have Gamora and Captain Carter, and now we're going to have the Dark Doctor Strange. So they're not the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're bigger than that. They're the Guardians of the Universe.
And maybe Spider-Man Doctor Strange, because I'm really hoping, I'm looking forward to seeing this Spider-Man Doctor Strange that I've seen in the concept art.
Right. Now I didn't see a Spider-Man Doctor Strange title in the episode. So again, that list of titles might not be 100% correct. But you know, we've seen the art for Spider Strange. I don't know.
I'd love to see it. Yeah. So you know, it's a really heavy episode, man. They keep building.
Yeah.
You know, we had Captain Carter was basically the happiest it got.
Yeah.
Because then from then on, it's like, what if the Avengers all got, killed by a serial killer? You know, what if Doctor Strange destroyed the entire universe for love?
The last two episodes have just been super heavy, which does not make me very hopeful for happy episodes, because we're going to get 2 Tony Stark episodes coming up. And we know Tony Stark stories are not typically the happiest stories.
He's another one who could go a bad way. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see what they do with the rest of these episodes. But I'm excited. Like, I mean, but this one was hard to watch, especially especially just watching the car crash over and over and over and over.
Oh, it was
rough.
That was probably the roughest thing that I've had to watch in a long time. That the original Doctor Strange, watching that in the movie was hard to live through, because I've been through a traumatic car crash, and watching that on the big screen was it's not easy to go through, and having to watch it 7 to 12 more times in this episode
I'm sure
was a little rough, man.
Trigger warning.
Yeah. So anyway, favorite part of the episode. My favorite part of the episode is the callback to Doctor Strange's name. O'Bane calls him Dr. Armani. And he says, "No, it's not Armani. It's Strange." And he goes, "Well, it definitely is.
It's no stranger. It's no stranger. He's like, it's no stranger than the other sorcerers wear. You know,
right?
It just kind of just rolls with it. Which was a play on the running joke, and basically any appearance of Doctor Strange in the MCU, from his movie to Peter going, "Oh, we're using our superhero names. Well, I'm Spider-Man."
Yeah.
And
so
the whole thing.
So that was my favorite part of the episode. What was your favorite part?
Probably, like you said, I really liked that character, and I hope I'm wondering that ends up all old because he spends so much time in the Dark Temple learning the dark arts.
Right, 1,000 years or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he meets him at the end, and he's like, "Man, you traded, don't do it." But in the end, just kind of like lets him do it. He lives his life, and he doesn't. And there's many opportunities for the Doctor Strange in this episode. Tragically, you're like, you'll get it. No, he's not really going to do it, and he does. He goes all the way. So I guess the ultimate Doctor Strange is the one that loses his hands and not his heart. Right. Which begs me, which I have to beg the question, and I'm sure and I should know that I should do my homework, but. I did write down in my last second notes for this episode. Did the actress who played, Doctor, did she do
Palmer?
the voice in the Dr. Palmer?
Yep.
Did she do?
So we get Benedict Cumberbatch, we get Rachel McAdams, we get Benedict Wong, we get Tilda Swinton.
Okay, Rachel McAdams. That's right.
Yeah.
So now is she slated for Multiverse of Madness then? So I assume we're going to get her.
I don't know. Honestly, the running list of names that I've seen thrown out there in the world for people that are going to be in the Multiverse of Madness is kind of this ongoing list of names, kind of like how it is with Spider-Man, where they're like, oh, it's going to be Tobey Maguire, and it's going to be Charlie Cox, and it's going to be Andrew Garfield. Right. Multiverse of Madness is a little wild because originally it started out and it's like, oh, well, it's going to be Doctor Strange and Wanda. And then we heard, oh, it's going to be Doctor Strange and Wanda and probably Loki and Sylvie. And then we heard Doctor Strange, Wanda, Loki, Sylvie, and now maybe Mobius. And
maybe White Vision, who knows?
And maybe White Vision. So there's a lot of baloney floating around there about Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
And we have a long road to it. But before we get to the next subject, and kind of get around to the end of the episode, I had one other kind of burning question, kind of back to the future-y question. Again, it's not necessarily how Marvel is working their time travel. Right. But so Doctor Strange goes back to that one fixed moment in time where Christine Palmer dies in the car crash. Mm-hmm. If he decided to go back to an earlier point in time, say to the point where she agreed to go to dinner with him, or, could he have altered that fixed point in time? Because instead of changing the fixed point in time, he's changing the roads that lead to that fixed point in time. Because we know in another universe, she doesn't go to dinner with him. He ends up in a car crash, loses his hands.
Right.
So is there a way in this time stream that he could have altered it?
I don't think
so. But he was so focused on her loss that...
See, I think to answer your question, I see where you're going, and I think the answer is actually in the episode and the way we started it off. You said a very Groundhog's Day, a very sad Groundhog's Day, and there are some very sad moments. There are some fixed points in time, like the homeless man that he tries to save dying in Groundhog's Day. I think they show us that no matter what he does, because there's ones where she just drops dead. She just has a heart attack.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
So yeah, I'm sure in those flashes when he's when he's just trying over and over, basically the 14 million things he does when he goes to the Eye of Agamotto and Avengers, he does that with Christine, but there's no way around it. There is no 1 in 14 million like he was able to do.
So in this universe, in this timeline, this has to happen. This is the fixed moment in this universe, and there's no correcting it.
Yep. And she's and unfortunately it is a very dark and kind of sick way the MCU is kind of like laying itself out in this what if that's how time works. It's just like, nope, she has to die. Yeah. For him to be the Sorcerer Supreme, she has to die. Yeah. Now, do we find out that it was Kang the Conqueror that's making her die? That she was getting...
Well,
that Doctor Strange doesn't see it, but she's being erased to make... I mean, is this what if? This brings us around to Loki and other stuff we've talked about. Does this episode... is this series connected to what they're doing with Kang being the big bad in like the next 4 big movies leading into Phase 5?
I mean, it could be. I don't believe so, because the way that we wrap up Loki is Kang, or He Who Remains, has been altering timelines to keep one sacred timeline, right?
Okay.
He's keeping the timeline that doesn't allow Kang the Conqueror to exist.
Okay.
So when we kill He Who Remains at the end of Loki, spoilers if you haven't seen Loki.
Right. We assume you have.
We assume you have if you're
It's a pretty Marvel.
fan.
It's pretty Marvel. Yeah, it's pretty Marvel heavy.
So when we lose He Who Remains, that sets up these multiverses, which we're assuming is what sets up the multiverses.
Right.
There's a lot of talk out there and a lot of people pointing fingers of who broke the multiverse. When we first saw WandaVision, we thought, oh no, Wanda broke the multiverse. And then we saw Loki and we're like, oh, Sylvie broke the multiverse. And then now we see, Spider-Man and we're like, oh no, Doctor Strange broke the multiverse.
Or did Sylvie save the multiverse, or did she restore the multiverse from this sacred timeline? Is that where we're gonna basically see the fallout and the consequences of the as Kang calls them, he who remains calls them the pretentious Avengers. We're gonna see the fallout of them, their time heist. There's got to be a reckoning, and just sending Steve Rogers away and getting old Steve back can't be the only price they pay for from altering time.
Right.
Basically.
So to answer your question, no, I don't believe Kang is behind that. I do think that it would be interesting going forward if we find a way where Uatu interacts with Kang, because obviously Uatu is the Watcher and he watches all universes, so he was obviously watching what He Who Remains was doing.
And it's always a big deal in what if stuff, because it has happened where somebody's badass enough where they just smoke the Watcher, and then you're like, what?
Right.
Because if Doctor Strange can sense the Watcher and talk to him and plead with him, but isn't powerful enough to mess with him,
there are other beings out there that can.
And who do we want to be more afraid of than even Doctor Strange, who has to be more powerful than Doctor Strange? Kang. So sorry, but Baloney disagrees with you.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps up our talk on what if Doctor Strange lost his heart. That does lead us back to Spider-Man. Obviously, we talked about it in the last episode. We watched the Spider-Man trailer. We get to see a now very arrogant Doctor Strange, a very comfortably arrogant Doctor Strange in his sweatpants. Which, by the way, I did look into starting to buy and put together that costume, and within the day that trailer dropped, the Columbia University sweatshirt that he wears completely sold out. Gone.
You tried.
I tried. So I have it on back order. I have it on back order, but completely gone. But so I mean, we talked about it. Is that the prime, sacred timeline Doctor Strange, or is this now the Doctor Strange? Because he apparently lives at the end of this episode. So are we going to see kind of that wrap its way through?
I think it could be another. I think it's setting up. I don't think it's going to be this Doctor Strange, but it could be another Doctor Strange, or that could be the Doctor Strange we meet, who's very comfy. I mean, and again, we keep calling Doctor Strange out for being arrogant, and he is. He's the new Tony Stark, and he hasn't had his. But why shouldn't he? Because so far, him taking on Dormammu and altering time worked out. If it's the same Doctor Strange, if it's comfy Doctor Strange, he's allowed to be comfy. He just brought half of the universe. He saw the one way they could bring half the universe back together, so that worked out for him pretty well. Yeah. So far he's got his one trick pony, his Eye of Agamotto. But does he have it in this one? Like I don't think he does. He shouldn't. Where does he get it? Where does he get an Eye of Agamotto from?
They show the eye around his neck. They show the eye. Now, they don't show the time stone, but they show the eye.
Okay.
So,
right.
has
Doctor... What is the eye?
So has Doctor Strange already been tampering with the timeline to go and get himself a new Eye of Agamotto, which leads to why he knows how to do the spell, which leads to...
Because he shouldn't, right? If we're doing our Infinity Stone math correctly, he shouldn't.
Right.
However,
if you watch Loki, there's multiple time stones. Now, they say that they don't work outside of their universe, but, who's to say? We don't know what Marvel's doing yet, so...
Well, and what if when Spidey walks into Doctor Strange's place, he's walking into a different universe?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what Marvel's going to do. They can do... We've talked about it. They can do whatever they want to do from here. They've broken the sacred timeline. There is no telling where Marvel's going to go with what they want to tell us, who's going to interact with where. It's going to be a wild ride.
But and I'm just going to be that guy standing on the corner with my crazy sign going, "It's all about Kang." I think I mean we can agree to disagree this episode, but I think it's all about Kang.
So you're going to be the guy that's going to have to fight with all the people that still think it's Mephisto.
I will take on that fight.
There's all the people that are still posting Mephisto things. Matter of fact, someone posted a picture from the comics that's Mephisto standing in front of a fireplace, and it's all wintry around him, and they're like, "Look, it's Mephisto, Doctor Strange."
Maybe.
I don't think we're going there. I think Marvel has bigger plans for Mephisto somewhere else down the road. But speaking of somewhere else down the road, coming up, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi.
I'm going to have to travel, not to China, not all the way around the world, but it'll be a 100-mile round trip from where I'm coming from, so I can see it in the theaters, because it's not streaming.
Not streaming. Yeah,
but I'm going to make the trip.
Yeah, Disney decided to stand behind the theatrical screening of Shang-Chi and will not be doing the special Disney Premiere access on Disney+.
Which we can get into that later. I mean, did they learn their lesson from the lawsuit, or is it another example of Black Widow getting treated, Scarlett Johansson getting treated differently?
That's really honestly, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we talk about Shang-Chi. That's where I'm sitting on it, man. I just think that rolling into it, they did not commit to thinking that the Black Widow movie was going to have the legs that it should have. I think they softballed it much the way Disney has softballed a lot of other things, like they did with the Lone Ranger, like they did, with countless other of their properties that they just didn't think was going to have all the pulling power.
Right. Well, I mean, again, this is all it's all a changing situation with what's going on in the world. Which we don't like to talk about too much here. We like to focus it on the nice, safe fantasy world, which is our refuge. But, the reality is, if we're talking the business end, the reality is that, things are changing. The goalposts keep changing. There's numbers going up right now while Shang-Chi is going to come out in the theater. So hopefully, I want everyone to have success. So hopefully it does well. But we're not going to know because we're literally recording this the first day or second day that Shang-Chi's been out.
Yeah, Shang-Chi dropped last night. People are already dropping spoilers all over the internet. I'm doing my best to avoid them because I'm not seeing it until Monday. Probably a big mistake, but that's where my tickets landed. So
so we'll be on internet lockdown for the next couple days. And we will our Shang-Chi episode. This episode will drop Monday, so that'll be the day that Thor's seeing Shang-Chi, and I'll be seeing Shang-Chi on Tuesday, and we'll do our best to get up our Shang-Chi action by Wednesday. But if you were having as hard of a time as we are getting tickets or getting to a theater, safe and sound and back home, then who knows when you'll see Shang-Chi. So, well, we'll get it up as soon as we can.
Yep. Well, and I think you mentioned Wednesday. We might... Everything's in the air. We might tie it up with the next Marvel What If, so that might drop on a Marvel Monday. I think we were talking about maybe talking Titans this week. We might drop an extra helping of applesauce and bologna on you.
Spicy bologna, spicy almost salami maybe, because we'll be talking about Titans, so it'll be a PG-13, possibly R-rated talk. I mean, just the subject matter and the stuff we're going to be talking about. It's going to be a little heavier, but we figure if anybody's listening, you're our age, so it's okay. You'll be all right.
Right.
You can hear some curse words maybe. We'll try it.
Yeah. Well, and if you've watched Titans, obviously you've heard the curse words. You're comfortable with it. So us bleeping ourselves or saying curse words, it's not gonna offend your sensibilities. So
we're not bleeping. We're not gonna.
So anyway, until next time, guys. I'm Thor.
I'm Eric.
And this has been Applesauce and Baloney.
Or Baloney and Applesauce.